Welcome to another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and today we're reviewing another stainless 210 Gyuto. This one is the Gehei ZDP 189 Gyuto 210 millimeter knife. The core steel is ZDP 189 stainless steel, which is a very high-tech, expensive, high-end powdered metallurgy stainless steel. It's got great edge retention, very high wear resistance, and it's typically taken to a pretty high heat treat rating, as is this one, 64 to 65 Rockwell. So these are hard knives. The steel is very hard. The construction is a softer stainless steel cladding on either side of that core steel for a 3-layer sandwich, and I do have an error right there, so that should say ZDP 189, not white number 2, excuse me, missed one. The weight on this knife, this is a fairly light knife. It's 5.3 ounces. The dimensions and weights will vary just a little bit from knife to knife since they're handmade. The blade length on this one was 200 millimeters, so it would be considered an undersized 210. And the overall length about 13.8. The spine thickness, it's pretty thick coming directly out of the handle, but it thins up really fast to about 2.75 millimeter above the back of the blade or chin. And then doesn't have a lot of distal taper. It thins up just a little bit from that, but then pretty much maintains that thickness all the way through till you get the grind of the knife. So it's not a lot of distal taper. The blade height is pretty generous, 49.1 millimeters. And the handle is the Chef Knives to Go semi-custom octagonal ambidextrous, Wenge and maple ferrule. And the handle circumference on this is about 79 or 80 millimeters. And let's see, it's got a lacquer coating or sealant on it of some kind, or poly or something on there, so it's definitely sealed up quite well. The blade height gives you plenty of clearance, even though the handle's a little bit bigger than the standard 3-inch handle. You've got plenty of room to put your finger here for a pinch grip with this curve. So this is the choil or back of the blade into the neck or imoto, and lots of room there for a very comfortable pinch grip. Speaking of that, the balance point on this knife, it's a fairly light blade. The handle's fairly light, but that balance point ends up pretty close to a pinch grip for me anyway, about right there. My pinch grip's almost right on the money for that. So very light, nimble feel. The finish on this knife is very attractive. It's got a nice refined look to it. You've got some hand-chiseled kanji on this side, and on the left side of the blade you've got a stamped 189, so you know what the steel is. And the finish is kind of a brushed finish with horizontal or longitudinal strokes to it. The nice thing about that kind of finish is when you clean a blade with your cloth and wipe it down, you tend to go this way, and if you get scratches on the cladding, they go that way. So this way the scratches go in the same direction as the brushed finish on it, and that helps hide those quite a bit over a knife that's finished in this way with the belt. So you've got a Kasumi section on it where they've differentiated a different finish. You can see that line, and that's actually fairly close to where the grind of the knife is, so when you feel it, it's pretty close to that line where the grind starts, and it's a gentle curve for the convex into the edge, and you can see the core steel showing at the edge. I should say the edge quality on this out of the box was, I'll give it a 6 or 7 out of 10 on the sharpness. It was a pretty decent out of the box edge on it, but you could, of course, make it sharper. Fit and finish is great on the blade. You've got some relief and polish on the spine, although it's not super curved, but enough so there's no sharp corners, and a nice relief on the back of the blade at the curve here into the handle. So it's very comfortable right out of the box. Let's take a look at it on the cutting board. These are fairly thin at the edge, so they thin out nicely at the edge. Here's your profile on that look. It's got a fairly good flat section for a 200 millimeter blade. So on the actual cutting board, it flows nicely into a flat section at the heel. That's fairly decent size. You've got a touch of back belly to it right there, but fairly decent flat section, and not a ton of belly to it. You can see it comes in kind of late. You've got almost a sheep's foot point to it, almost like a santoku style. That's the particular style of this blade, and so it doesn't get real high on a rock, but I can get about right there where the tip starts digging in. So, but it is a 200 millimeter blade, so it's not really going to get you over high ingredients, but it would be a nice rocker for shorter, medium stuff if you like to do that. Yet it does have a bit of a flat spot to support a variety of techniques to it. This has a well done edge profile that's very smooth. So if you want extremely high edge retention, high quality knife, these are not inexpensive, but the steel itself is quite expensive and difficult to work with. So high edge retention, this should be a nice performing knife. It's thin at the edge. If you don't want a really large Gyuto, this might be a good option for you. This is the Gehei ZDP 189 Gyuto 210 millimeter.